These people, they just don't get it.
Tax the rich is a very popular sentiment. It's also now a fashion statement, I guess, which we've all seen. So when President Biden looks into the microphone and says, pay your fair share, what does that mean?
It means that if you're one of the 55 corporations that literally paid absolutely nothing in federal income taxes in 2020, and in fact received $3.5 billion in tax refunds or rebates, or tax refunds, I should say, maybe you should pay your fair share. But here's the thing, if the tax code is written in a way where corporations can legally take advantage of loopholes and incredibly low effective corporate tax rates, they're going to do it, right? So it's one thing to say pay your fair share. It's another thing to actually write a tax code that is a little more equitable and ensures that everyone is, in fact, paying their fair share.
Ben, what's pay your fair share mean?
I mean, the obvious answer would be a flat tax, but the longer answer is that the United States has one of the most progressive income tax systems on planet Earth. Most of the systems in, for example, Northern Europe are far less progressive. The top tax rate kicks in a lot lower on the income scale because you have to pay for the large-scale social services. The people who are at the top of the income bracket in the United States, the top quintile, essentially pays all net taxes in the United States. Not some, not most, all. And the reason for that is because there are tax transfers, and the transfer of payments that are inherent in public services do not accrue to the people at the top of the tax bracket. They accrue to everybody else who's receiving that sort of funding. When we talk about higher taxes on corporations, we do not have one of the world's lowest corporate tax rates. We are somewhere in the middle. Look at the OECD countries. We are certainly not the lowest on the totem pole in terms of our corporate tax rate. In fact, right-wing sources like the Heritage Foundation will say that it is much friendlier to do business in places like Denmark or Sweden in many cases than it is to do business in the United States.
Tax rate's pretty high in Denmark and Sweden.
It is. The personal income tax rate is very high in Denmark and Sweden. The corporate tax rate is basically near or on par with that of the United States. If we were to raise our corporate tax rate the way that President Biden is talking about, we'd actually have a higher corporate tax rate than China currently does. The notion that corporations ought to be paying tax at all, in my view, is mistaken, given the fact that the income is immediately either reinvested in the company or passed on to people who immediately pay all of that tax. By the time you actually receive your income in this country, the income's been taxed about 7 different ways. Right? You're getting taxed through the corporation, then it's passed on to you as salary, which is taxed. If you invest it in the stock market and then you sell your stock, that is taxed as capital gains tax. When you die, the government taxes that as well. So how many times can you tax the same dollar before people begin to disinvest?
How much does Uncle Sam need? How many times do we have to have the government reaching in our pockets and taking what's not theirs? Like, everybody should have to pay their taxes. Absolutely. I agree. Pay your fair share. But at what point do you say, okay, these people have earned this amount of money. They're reinvesting it back into their business, which means more employees, more jobs, and those people are getting taxed. So how many times are we going to take before we, just allow people to enjoy the fruits of their labor? But, leftists, they don't understand that. But I digress. You like that response?
I'd like to respond to that, though.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
To argue that the corporate tax rates in the United States are too high, or that,
They are.
I mean, first off, let me just touch on the comparison you gave regarding progressive taxes in European countries versus the United States. I mean, yes, the taxes might be higher in those European countries, but what do people living in those countries get in return? They get incredible childcare. I mean, listen, the average American family, 2-income household, spends a whopping 22% of their household income on childcare alone, right? So when you're talking about European countries that offer quality childcare, that, by the way, that opens up the opportunity for people to go to work, something that we should maybe think about as we're dealing with this labor shortage. 64,000 women left the job force in April alone. Not because they want to, but because they can't afford childcare. Everything in this country is privatized. Everything has a for-profit model. And there's consequences that come along with that, including for the business community that might want, a more robust social safety net to ensure that people feel comfortable enough to go to work, but we don't have that here. So yes, people might pay more in taxes, including those lower on the income scale, but what they get in return is far greater than what people in this country have been getting.
The United States has spent, since the beginning of the war on poverty, some $22 trillion in the war on poverty. We spend an awful lot on social services in this country on a per capita level. In fact, it is very much on par with what the European countries spend. It's just not spent particularly well. When it comes to things like child care, a very young Elizabeth Warren, before she became Senator Elizabeth Warren, specifically wrote about universal child care, and she said that it actually was contributing to what she called the two-income trap in a book that she wrote in the early 2000s. And what she talked about is the fact that there are a lot of women who, for example, may not want to work, and what you're actually doing is incentivizing people to have to go to work because you are now providing child care, as opposed to providing a competitive advantage to, for example, families where one parent is working. I agree with you, by the way, that child care is a very difficult issue. I also agree that this is why we used to have, for example, family structures that were conducive to allowing people to help out. There are many businesses that do provide for some form of child care. We certainly have many businesses that provide for some form of maternity or paternity leave. The European countries, which obviously have been used as a model by a lot of folks on the left, between 1970 and 1993, they experienced exorbitantly low rates of growth. And the reason for that was because they radically overburdened their social safety net systems. It created enormous social problems. It created enormous immigration problems. They had to scale a lot of those back. And
why would it create immigration problems?
It created immigration problems because a lot of people were coming specifically for the benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yes, that would be to my point, which is it creates more problems very often than it's.
For what?
Sure, I guess that's a.
Yes, if I put a free donut sign in my shop, people will come for the.
No, but if you have a robust. If you have a society that actually takes care of its workers, right? If you have a society that makes your life a lot easier, people are going to want to immigrate. It's part of the reason why people wanted to come here. People are going to want to live in countries that have both economic opportunity, but also social safety net programs that, again, just make we talk about freedom. If you look at the World Freedom Index, okay, we like to think of the United States as the freest country. We're not the freest country. You look at that list, we're like pretty low down compared to a lot of these Nordic countries. Denmark is top of that list. So look, Denmark has a mixed economy. When we have these debates about socialism versus capitalism, I think that those debates are a little ridiculous because every country is not every country, but most countries are mixed economies.
Right. The United States is a mixed economy.
Exactly. Yep. Now, the issue with the United States is there used to be a time when public universities were free, right? You didn't have to dig yourself into a massive hole to get an education. There was a time in this country where there was universal child care. That was cut down to the point where it's like no longer in existence unless you're desperate and have no money and need to take advantage of some programs that are available in some states. But my point is, we have an issue here where on one hand, we're experiencing a labor shortage. We want people to go back to work. On the other hand, people literally can't afford the childcare necessary in order to put their kids in a daycare, put their kids in childcare, and be able to go to work without their entire paycheck.
The Biden bill removes many work requirements for many of the payments that are being made to people, and it's incentivizing people not to go back to work, which is why we have 10 million open jobs in the United States and people not coming back to work.
That is not what that bill does. In fact, that's not what that bill. Are you talking about the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill?
I am talking about the $3.5 trillion bill.
The $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill offers universal pre-K, which opens up the opportunity for mothers to go to work if they want to go to work. The $3.5 trillion bill, by the way, has all sorts of subsidies for corporations, which I don't really understand why the business community isn't salivating over that, because rather than just going full force with public programs, which I think would be the right way to go, it's offering all sorts of subsidies in these, public-private partnerships. Now, the physical infrastructure bill has a lot more corporate giveaways, which is why the, business community absolutely loves it, offers the chance to privatize public infrastructure, which is why the business community absolutely loves it. But at the end of the day, if we don't create a society where Americans can actually have families and go to work, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
So to go back to your immigration point, you made a mention a moment ago of people immigrating to the country for the benefits. That's just abjectly untrue. The fact is that the United States' great immigration growth throughout the beginning of the Republic all the way up through about 1930 was entirely driven by people who were leaving places that in many cases had broader benefits, places like Germany, to come to the United States where there was no social safety net. The fact is that the vast majority of people who used to leave and come to the United States were coming specifically to build a life knowing that they really didn't have a lot of social safety net. Now, that's not an argument that there shouldn't be some state and local possibility for social safety net, but the notion that the way that you build a successful country that is a world power and is capable of not only making sure that its citizens are taken care of, but essentially making sure that the entire Western world is taken care of, which we did throughout the Cold War. The idea that you do that simply by raising the number of social security payments that you're making to people or benefit payments that you're making to people, this is the way that you build that sort of economy, is just non-borne out by empirical
Okay, we've
fact.
had a real far-ranging conversation.
Yes.
Sounds like a great idea to me. In other words, don't give everything away for free. Like the amount of times that she just used the word free when talking about education and universal child care and how the good old days, how it used to be when you could go to school and pay for this illicit degree, not talking about trades and things of that nature that provide actual value, but the studies and majors that kids can go into these days and rack up a ton of debt for, that should be given for free. Like it shows that she really has no idea how taxes work, and this whole socialist idea is off the wall. I mean, land's sakes, to me, she has mastered the art of using as many words as possible to actually say nothing, without ever actually providing any sort of substance and value. All these big fancy words, but no clear meaning about what you're actually saying. Ben was the educator in this conversation. Ben's mind, to me, it's like a machine gun. He just grabbing encyclopedia sort of data out of that brain box and just dishing out facts and quantitative data like it's nothing. It just so quickly, so precisely, with compassion. He doesn't have to bash, doesn't have to belittle, patiently waits his turn, because when it was her turn to talk, she talked. He stayed quiet. But when it was Ben's turn to talk, she also talked. She just wanted to hear herself talk like she was on the Young Turk show. And it's not that. This was a discussion. And from afar, if you take a step back and view it from a logical perspective, Ben absolutely won that debate. The moderator, he sat there quiet, didn't interrupt it, so I respected that. This is how more discussions need to go without the interruptions, though. I appreciate and respect the fact that they had respect for each other and they didn't tear down and lash out, but when it's not your turn to talk, just sit there, just take in another piece of insight, and you may gain some wisdom, gain another perspective that you might not have heard about. And, that knowledge is free. But what you're talking about shouldn't be free. And I'm not sure if she actually believes what she's saying or not, or if she's just regurgitating what people behind the scenes have told her to say just to, keep her safety net, keep her job. Ben, you could tell he's all about the facts, where she was trying to talk based on emotion. And when you have a discussion like that, you can't actually exchange ideas because you get so caught up in the moment, so caught up in, what's the culture going to think about this? What's this person going to view me as? Am I going to get canceled? Am I going to get quieted down? But the best approach is always to speak the truth, because that shall set you free. I think it's funny, though, because y'all ever notice how it's always these rich people that are in real comfortable situations. They got it made. They don't have to worry about how they're going to fill their gas tank, how they're going to pay their next bill, or how their child's going to get taken care of. They're the ones, though, always on camera pushing for socialism and tax the rich and give back. It should all be free. Just toss our money away and burn it to the ground. But if you want to talk about hypocrisy, this is it. This is a facade, and we shouldn't buy into it, because I guarantee if we ask these same people off air, whether it's Ana Kasparian or Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren, if you ask these people in a personal setting where all eyes aren't on them, they wouldn't want to be making the same dollar bills as someone who just started working at Mickey D's entry-level position, fresh out of college. And they shouldn't, because they possess a certain skill set, whether you like them or not, that they had to put in some grind time to get to that point. They had to put in some sacrifice and some dedication that the next man or woman didn't. And that's why they got where they are. And that's okay. Think about this for a second. Should a police officer, firefighter, or military personnel really share the same income and have the same value and skill set as somebody sitting at home playing video games and eating donuts all day? Really? Or what about a brain or heart surgeon that saves lives on a day-to-day basis? Should they make the same income as a barista at Starbucks? Seriously, I get that some of y'all don't feel alive until you get that caffeine hit from coffee at the beginning of each day, but there's levels to this thing called life. And although there's one race and one blood, value added to society and dedication to those skill sets isn't shared among everyone, and that should be common sense. But these people don't think like that. They don't think that, if we were on the same playing field, people wouldn't have that drive and ambition and hunger to go out there and reach for those rocket scientist positions and try to get to the moon, or try to save that next person's life, or become a lawyer, or all these higher end positions that pay more in society. If they paid the same as somebody who bags groceries at the grocery store or pumps gas at a gas station, Those are important roles as well, but it's different. So these people need to stop painting capitalism as the root of all evil and recognize that without capitalism, people wouldn't have these roles in society that we see today that add so much value and innovation and just game-changing conveniences, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. You don't want to be like the Swedens of the 1980s or the Venezuela of the 1990s into the 2000s, people that run socialist economies get ran into the ground. And then you look back some years later and you see that people are scrounging for just to eat, just to get by, because there's no levels. Everybody's on the same playing field. And at some point, the money runs out. At some point, the things that you're reaching for, that you're trying to attain to provide for your family, they're gone because everybody is trying to scrounge for what you got. The great Winston Churchill said, "The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessing. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries." So with capitalism, with people starting companies and running businesses and providing new innovations to society, we can share in the fruits of their labor, of their dedication. There's always going to be new progress to be had. There's always going to be new added things to society that weren't there before. The voids filled based on a need that society didn't have previously. But with socialism, nobody has that aim to add to society. Nobody has that aim to go out there and start a business or do anything like that, because everything's the same. And therefore, we're all going to share in the same struggles of lacking. And don't get it twisted. I'm by no means saying that everything is sunshine and roses and all capitalists and business owners are good Samaritans. By no means am I saying that. But what I am saying is that to whom much is given, much is required, just like it talks about in Luke 12 verse 48. Capitalism has allowed for so many Christians to go on mission trips where if you see other third world countries, they don't have the means to do so. Those people are just trying to figure out how to get by and how to survive until the next day and eat. But here in the West, we've been given so much money. We've earned so much more money than we actually need that it's allowed us to go on those countless missionary projects all around the world. And it's fueled the ability to help others, to love your neighbor as yourself. And they're able to give back. They're able to uplift communities. If you're in a socialist economy, nobody's thinking about the next man or a woman because they got the same thing as you. You're only thinking about yourself, and it becomes a very selfish way of living. No form of socialism, no matter how you chop it up and what you want to imagine in a fairy tale world, can provide the things that capitalism can do. Only a capitalist economy can lift the living standards of ordinary people above subsistence level, above just maintaining and getting by. That's a fact. And the more the state owns, the more the government controls, the more it controls the people in it, the more it controls the citizens, and the more it, limits their freedoms. And in the end, those who control the economy are the ones who benefit from it. Those are the greedy ones because they dictate what happens so they can take as much as they want. We see that in politics every single day. And these people need to stop talking about free, free, free. There's a reason mice die in mousetraps, because they don't understand why the cheese is free. So next time somebody offers you a free handout, you got to ask yourself, okay, nothing in this world is actually free. So if I accept this, what's going to be the outcome of it? What's going to be the aftermath and the repercussions from accepting this handout? Is it going to limit me? It's not going to show me the skill set and give me the tools that I need to, thrive and to prosper and to grow. I'm not saying you have to be rich, but ask yourself why these people are giving you free things, and then you'll see the result after you've accepted those free things. We see it today. But let me go ahead and wrap this whole thing up and make sure my priorities are aligned and focused on the only thing that matters at the end of the day, because no matter what your view is on capitalism or socialism, all of us, capitalists included, people that have, benefited from the American values and the freedoms that we've been blessed with, we're all going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ, and all the money and fame and riches and all the things you've acquired here on earth is going to be pointless. It's going to have no value whatsoever. It's going to be worthless. 2 Peter 3 verse 10, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Everything's going to be canceled. That we can be certain of. So as Francis Schaeffer would put it, you have to have capitalism with compassion. You can't just acquire all these things for yourself and exploit poor people and allow that greed of the human heart to be the most important thing, because money is the root of all evil if you don't know how to use it. If you prioritize that and worship money as your God, and you don't know how to love and sacrifice and give back. When I say to whom much is given, much is expected, well, the Bible says it. I don't say it, but I repeat it. That means God has allowed you to have these things, so take care of other people with them. Use your blessings to bless other people and to bring people to the kingdom so we can all enjoy in eternal salvation. That's what matters at the end of the day. So repent from your greed, repent from your past life, from your wicked ways, from sin. confess Christ as Lord, and go out and be salt and light of the earth with whatever you've been blessed with. Tend to your field just like Adam tended to it back in Genesis days. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't collect all these things for yourself and then wonder at the day of reckoning why you can't take it with you. You can't strap a U-Haul to a hearse. All of us, no matter what view is on the world, no matter you like socialism, capitalism, you're an atheist, a Buddhist, whatever you may be, we're all on this side of the grass one time. If you don't do it right, if you don't love your neighbor as yourself, and Jesus Christ isn't your Lord and Savior, then you're doing it all wrong. You are wasting your time. So remember that the next time this discussion comes up. Capitalism isn't bad. Capitalism, if done right, allows you to add so much value and love and compassion to society, if done right. So we need to take a step back, get our priorities aligned with the kingdom, and then everything will work out. I'm done ranting, I promise. Y'all let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Let's keep this conversation rolling. Don't forget to like this video by smashing the thumbs up button down below. Subscribe if you're not already. Ring the notification bell so you get notified anytime I post a video, just in case YouTube forgets to let you know. I appreciate you. I love y'all for doing so. If you want to take it a step further, you like what we're doing over here, you want to show a little extra love and support, by no means do you have to, but you can get awesome designs like this Godfidence, knowing I can't, but he can. These designs are made over my wife's Etsy store by her, customized in-house, all of that. Insulated tumblers, petite, teat, small sizes to big, and hefty for the 5X folks out there. All different sizes and colors. Like I said, we don't discriminate. We appreciate y'all. It goes a very long way in allowing me to continue to do what I do. All my other links are down below in the description section. Shout out to the Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee fam. Anybody who's ever joined the Gibson family on YouTube by hitting that little join button and becoming a member. I'm so grateful for y'all. I can't thank you enough and put into words and context just how appreciative I am for you guys showing up every single video and allowing my freckle face to rant at you. I just love y'all so much, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. I'll be praying for you. Until next time, Godspeed. I'm gone.